What's up, cuckolds? It's the hater back again talking about AEW Dynamite. Now, before I get to the show, I was roped in by a friend to go watch this at this little cafe that I go to. It's like almost like a sports bar in some ways, right? And I was told that we would watch both that and NXT, but only AEW was on because they had the basketball game on. So, and to make matters worse, they were playing music in the background, so I couldn't really hear what people were saying. But I did try to read the subtitles to make a good review for all of you scumbags. So with that being said, if I miss a word here and there in the promos, that's why, bitches. You know what I'm saying? All right, so first off, we start the show with a little bit of a preview of what's going to come tonight. And it seems like a pretty stacked card. Like a lot of people that should be on TV are going to be on TV. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, that's pretty cool. It sounds good. First thing that we see is Jon Moxley is going to be in action. So I'm like, all right, he's obviously going to beat some guy because he's undefeated. So it's Jon Moxley versus Michael Nakazawa. This is a pretty quick squash match. What's his face? Dean Ambrose hits the dirty deeds. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it's as simple as that. They end the match pretty quickly. Dean Ambrose hits dirty deeds, pins Michael Nakazawa 1, 2, 3. No one cared whatsoever about this. Dean Ambrose cuts a promo. I didn't really understand most of it, but basically it was just, like the parts that I did read was, I'm Dean Ambrose. I'm this guy. I'm that guy. I'm misunderstood and I'm angry all the time. I don't know where this guy's going, or I didn't know where this was going until a little bit later on in the night. So let's get to that soon. Then we had Dark Order versus the Jurassic Express. Dark Order, they're interesting. Evil Uno, he reminds me of like Machine from 8mm, which was a fantastic movie. If anyone hasn't watched 8mm, starring Nicolas Cage, Joaquin Phoenix, James Gandolfini, Peter Stormare, and another good actor that I can't think of right now for some reason. Or maybe that's it. Whatever. The point is, it's a good movie. He reminds me of like the bad guy from that. And Stu Grayson, whatever. That guy reminds me of a jobber. That guy this doesn't fit him at all. He looks like Raymond Rowe from, Eric from the War Raiders, whatever the Vikings, whatever the fuck they're called, right? He looks like him, except he's like 100 pounds smaller. He's in good shape, but he's just a small dude. And because he's a small dude, this gimmick of like menacing evil guy doesn't really fit him. In order to be menacing and evil, you have to have some sort of size on you, right? Like he looks like one of the gimps that comes out with them that makes the human throne. Like if you took the mask off one of the gimps and you put it on this guy, no one would notice. So anyways, they wrestled the Jurassic Express, which of course means we're going to get to see the amazing team of Jungle Boy, Jack Perry or whatever, and Marco Stunt, dogs. Marco Stunt, everyone's favorite wrestler, Marco Stunt. Marco Stunt is a maximum of 4 foot 11 inches. I don't care what they say. This guy his head barely reaches the top rope. Rey Mysterio is like 5'2", and if Rey Mysterio were to wrestle this guy, it would look like Great Khali wrestling John Cena, because this guy is just a tiny, tiny person. And here's the thing. He has the Zach Gowen problem, as I call it, right? When I was a kid, I went to see some WWE show, and Zach Gowen was there, right? And people were booing him. This was like a little bit before he was released, right? They were booing him because people were like, all right, this is ridiculous, Like, this is a dude with one leg, and he's beating like Matt Hardy, Shannon Moore. He's beating like bigger men with 2 legs. You understand what I'm saying, motherfuckers? So that's the problem. It would be one thing. Like there was like this one wrestler. He's like a real wrestler, like in college. He's this like young black guy, and he has one leg, right? And he was like NCAA like Division II champ, or maybe he was in a D1 school, and he was doing really well, right? And he had one leg, and people were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." Of course, we had a few haters who were like, "Oh well, because he has one leg, he can wrestle in a bigger weight class." This guy's got one leg, man. He's overcome insurmountable odds to be here, and you're like, "Oh, this and that and this." But the difference between that guy and Zach Gowen is that this guy, the people were right, motherfuckers. The people were right. Because the guy had one less leg, right? That's another 30, 40 pounds of bulk that he could have. So he was basically like a dude. I think he wrestled at 180. So he was a dude that would be like 220, but because he didn't have one leg, he has the body of a guy who's 220 minus one leg, and he's wrestling 180 pounders, right? So he has a strength advantage, at least an upper body strength advantage, which in Greco-Roman wrestling and even freestyle wrestling has a huge advantage, right? Like it gives you a huge advantage. Strength is almost everything in wrestling, right? Technique as well. But you understand what I'm saying. But this guy was jacked. He was like a world-class athlete, you know? Zach Gowen is a skinny guy with one leg. So it's like you would think to yourself, if you have one leg, if you find yourself in a situation where you have one leg, where you have a clear handicap, right? And I don't mean handicap like disability, but handicap in the sense of like just a negative in order to be a wrestler, you would think that you would try to train your upper body and your other leg to be jacked, right? To like, if you have one leg, you should look like Neville and have one leg, right? Similarly, if you're Marco Stunt and you're about 4'9", right? You should make sure that you are at least like 150, 160 pounds of pure muscle, so it can be a little bit believable. But this guy is like, honestly, I think Marco Stunt is probably about 80 fucking pounds. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like him for that reason. I respect the man because he, you know, despite his small stature, he made it to like quote unquote a big time wrestling promotion, aka a t-shirt company that's going nowhere. But you understand what I'm saying. So this match was a complete waste of time. Dark Order defeated them with a fatality, which is a gory special into a blockbuster. And I was like, all right, this was a throwaway match. No one cared. But it wasn't, motherfuckers. It wasn't. It actually led to something. And what it led to was Evil Uno, who's like the fat one from Dark Order. He pretty much lays some truth on Marco Stunt. He says, you're a small dude, a man of small stature, right? You'll never amount to anything, basically. So what's your next career move, right? How about joining the Dark Order and being one of those like human furniture guys? And I looked at one of my friends that was there, and I was like, that's a career. That's called upward mobility, man. Take a right step. Stop being Marco Stunt and be a gimp, you know? And Marco Stunt's like, well, I don't know. He has like this look on his face, like, oh, I don't know. Jungle Boy comes in, takes the mask, and throws it in their face, right? So they proceed to like beat the shit out of both Marco Stunt and Jack Perry, and they take one of the gimp masks and they force it on Marco Stunt, which was great because that is a wrestling moment. It's like these two big guys. One of them is big, the other one is like Stu Grayson, right? They're bullying these tiny, tiny men, right? And forcing them to be gimps, right? At this point, obviously, Lucha Soros comes out. Lucha Soros should be a main eventer. This guy is huge. He's got badass tattoos. And of course, the dinosaur mask is holding him back significantly. And this guy also, he can do like kicks, like martial arts like kicks. And he's like 6'5" at least, right? And he can do like a moonsault, like a standing moonsault. So this guy's got a lot going on for him. But he's been straddled with this, or saddled, sorry, straddled. He's been, he probably does some straddling in other places, but anyways, he's been saddled with this like ridiculous dinosaur gimmick. The only logical conclusion for this guy's career is that he has a Hurricane Helms moment, right? When the Hurricane turned on Rosie and took his mask off and became Gregory Helms, which was like one of the coolest things ever because it was like finally this goofball is tired of being a goofball, and he was like such an over-the-top goofball. Just like Lucha Soros says that when he took it off, you're like, man, like I like this. I want to see this guy take himself seriously because Gregory Helms, and like before WCW was bought by WWE, he was the cruiserweight champion. He was being pushed as a legit star. You know, a cruiserweight, but a star nonetheless. He was beating Chavo Guerrero. You know, he was having like an actual storyline with him. He won like an awesome ladder match at Starrcade. Like or with Shannon Moore, but whatever. Like he was the one that came out on top of that. So I want to see the same thing happen with Lucha Soros. Eventually, after they continue losing, Lucha Soros turns on both of them and just destroys them, right? And then takes off his mask and becomes like whatever the hell his name is in real life. He becomes that guy, or they give him a new name, and he just becomes like this rampant heel that just destroys jobbers, you know? That's what I want to see. So that's what I have to say about that. It was all right. I liked the fact that there was a semblance of a storyline, so that was kind of nice. Then we had Darby Allin versus Shawn Spears versus Peter Avalon, the Librarian. Now, I assumed that Shawn Spears would win this match because he won at the pay-per-view, and these two other guys weren't on the pay-per-view. So, you know, but I was surprised that Joey Janela came out and took out Shawn Spears from the match. Like, this could have been a post-match beatdown. Now, I'm not saying that Shawn Spears is a great guy or a great wrestler or anything. I actually would prefer Darby Allin myself. But Darby Allin wins this match after Shawn Spears is taken out. Not taken out like destroyed, but taken out like, you know, preoccupied with Joey Janela, who came out looking like Ortiz from Out and Proud. So, whatever, proud and powerful, whatever. I just call him out and proud because that's what when I hear proud and powerful, I'm just like, proud word, cool. So it was Peter Avalon and Darby Allin, and as soon as like Shawn Spears was eliminated from the match, you knew obviously Darby Allin was going to win. This Peter Avalon is a complete jobber. This guy has no business even being a wrestler, but whatever, it is what it is. Darby Allin hits the Darby Stunner, which is what I'm going to call its move, and then he hits the coffin drop and pins him 1, 2, 3. Then in another quasi story moment, after the match, he calls out Jon Moxley. Now, this is kind of silly. My other friend that was there, he was like, that's going to look stupid because Jon Moxley is like much bigger than this guy. But I'm thinking to myself, all right, this could be interesting because Jon Moxley is like a crazy guy and Darby Allin's a crazy guy. And because Jon Moxley is violent and bigger than him, Darby Allin's going to have to pull out all the stops, motherfuckers, to compete. So that's kind of interesting too. Overall, the show thus far has been, I think, above average. It's been a decent show. I actually was kind of enjoying it. But then we start going downhill. Nyla Rose beats a jobber. Now, who cares, right? Nyla Rose is like somewhere down the card, like in the women's division. She's somewhere below Riho and Emi Sakura and Britt Baker and probably Awesome Kong and Allie or whatever her name is, right? She's somewhere below these broads, so who cares if she beats some jobber whose name I don't even know. I don't think they announced the name. She hits the power bomb and pins her 1, 2, 3. The power bomb is pretty cool. So there you go. Eventually, what happened was after that. After that, Jericho comes out and has a face-to-face with MJF. Now, one of my friends was marking out on this. And I was just thinking to myself, all right, like, I get it. I get why people like MJF. I think he's overrated myself, but I get why they like him. They come out and they cut this, like, incredibly boring promo of, like, you want me to join the Inner Circle? Do you want me to join the Inner Circle? Should I join the Inner Circle? Oh, should we do this? Should we do that? Maybe we can go out and get a drink later. Who cares, right? So it doesn't matter. None of this was fun. I didn't like it at all. Eventually, Cody Rhodes, they pretty much decide to blame Cody Rhodes for like being Cody Rhodes basically, and Cody Rhodes comes out to attack them. And as Cody Rhodes is destroying both of them, Wardlow, motherfuckers, makes his debut. Now, this guy, I mentioned him in one of my AEW Dark videos. They had a little vignette of him. He's like, in the vignette, he was some dude wearing like trunks and had a man bun. And I'm just like, this is just dumb, you know? Like, I mean, he looked like a beast, so I did enjoy that, but I'm like, a man bun and trunks. But now he came out dressing like MJF. He had a Burberry tie, which I liked because, you know, it fits with the whole MJF Burberry scarf, right? It's a clear visual cue that they are together, because my friend was like, oh, is this guy going to join the Inner Circle? What's going to happen? And I'm like, nah, man, look at the tie, motherfuckers. So, yeah, he came out, he beat up Cody, he hit him with like basically like almost like a Widowmaker AA type move, right? Which fit because he's a big dude. And then he choked him with the Burberry tie. It was what it was. The promo was garbage, I thought, which is weird because Jericho is awesome. So I don't know why they had him do this nonsense, right? I guess it was more of like a pass the torch moment. Not to say that Jericho passed the torch to MJF, that's ridiculous. But like almost like a pass the feud, right? Where Jericho's like, all right, I'm done with Cody Rhodes. You can have him, kid, right? And then Wardlow made his debut, which is interesting because then when Cody Rhodes and MJF have their match, Wardlow can come in and like cause Cody the match or something like that. Then we had immediately after that we had, oh my God, Pac versus Adam Page for the 17,000th time. I could not give a rat's ass about either one of these guys. At one point, Pac does this like, or what do they call it? The Arihara moonsault. He does like a moonsault from the top turnbuckle to the outside, right? Moments later in the match, Adam Page does the same move. I turn to my friends and I say, you see what I'm saying, motherfuckers? That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that there is nothing distinctive about either one of these guys. They both do the same moves. They have their two other moves that they do. They're boring as hell in the ring. I'm sick and tired of this. Oh, Adam Page is great in the ring. Pac is great in the ring. One of the other guys that was there, that works there, he's a wrestling fan too. He was like, oh, WWE didn't use Pac. He's kind of a smart. He's like, WWE didn't use Pac right. And I'm like, no, hold on, pause. I said to him, pause. Of course they used him right. Now they have Buddy Murphy to do the exact same thing, to be a cruiserweight that eventually will end up being a jobber, dissatisfied, and will come into AEW, and then people will be like, oh, what's like, whatever, Murphy Buddy, whatever the hell his real name is, what's he doing on like AEW? Who cares, man? Nobody cares about these guys. Like, what's the difference between Buddy Murphy and Pac? What's the difference, man? They have the same goofy haircut. They have the exact same body type. They both do like great moves, and neither of them has any charisma. I remember this time when Adrian Neville in like NXT or maybe on Raw, he cut this promo and he was like, "Look at me, I look like an elf," and I'm like, well, of course you have to bury yourself. You have no mic skills whatsoever. There's no need for you to even be here, dog. So anyways, that match was a complete waste of time, and in my opinion, one of the worst matches of the month, only because we've seen it 7,000 times. When we see Randy Orton and John Cena, every pay-per-view, people lose their minds like WWE's out of touch. You're right. Everyone wants to see Pac and Neville again and again and again. Anyways, Pac wins with the Black Arrow, the Brutalizer. Who gives a shit? At some point, Jim Ross compared Pac to, I read the subtitle, to Dynamite Kid, which is ridiculous. Dynamite Kid, and I'm not going to sit here and say I was a big fan of Dynamite Kid. I think I've seen like one match, but it's crazy. I hate how JR compares all these jobbers to like great wrestlers of the past. Like a few weeks ago, he's like, "Oh, Sammy G, as he calls him. Sammy G reminds me of a young Eddie Guerrero." And I wanted to spit at my TV. And I thought to myself, if you ever mention fucking Sammy Guevara in the same sentence as Eddie Guerrero, I will break my TV and I will come to AEW and I will like attack someone with a chair or something, because that is just preposterous. So anyways, yeah, that match happened. No one cared. Then we have this extended backstage brawl between Out and Proud and the Young Cucks. Nobody cared. Like, this is the same thing that's been happening every week. These guys keep attacking each other. They had their match. I don't understand why this has to keep going. You had your match, you lost. Move on, man. Move on. That's like the number one problem with wrestling, is people don't move on. Back in the day, in the Attitude Era specifically, right, there were clear 1 month feuds for the most part. And when there was like a more than 1 month feud, for example, when Triple H beat Mick Foley at Royal Rumble, he beat Mankind at Royal Rumble, right? It was like, all right, that's it. Mankind had his shot. It was a fantastic match, one of the best matches ever, in my opinion, right? And then that's it. And then Mankind is like, now I'm Cactus Jack. And then they had their Hell in a Cell. But think about what that meant. In order to justify having another match next month, right, Mick Foley had to essentially change gimmicks into Cactus Jack once again, and they had to have it in a Hell in a Cell match for Mick Foley's career and the WWE title, right? Whereas here, we see Adam Page versus Pac in the most meaningless match ever. Then we see Adam Page and Pac in the most meaningless match ever again. And once again, motherfuckers, we see it for the third time, this time on TV, for the most meaningless match ever. Why would I care about this, right? Back in the day, you had something simple, right? It was like the one Billy Gunn versus Chris Benoit, right? For the IC title. Benoit beats him, Billy Gunn moves on to something else, Benoit defends his title against someone else. And if you want to have these long rivalries, which they did back in the day, like for example, speaking of Benoit and Jericho, right? Once in a while, they would wrestle each other at the pay-per-view for the IC title, right? But between like those 2 or 3 matches a year that they had for the IC title, Jericho would be feuding with like Eddie Guerrero, Benoit would be feuding with Kurt Angle, Jericho would be feuding with Kurt Angle. You know, there was variety. That's the entire premise of wrestling. To me, it's like this. When a pay-per-view happens, everything should be resolved. Not like these programs that we have now where you have like WrestleMania. They build up WrestleMania, and then you have like Extreme Rules next, like 3 weeks later, and it's the same exact card, right? And it's like, and the matches sometimes are better at Extreme Rules, so or whatever it is, Fastlane, whatever the fuck it is after WrestleMania. So I don't like these feuds that don't end. The pay per view ended, right? Jericho won. Cody shouldn't be going after Jericho. You use the pay per view to set up the next feud, fuckers. You create the next feud, just like they did with Cody and MJF, right? You create a new feud for the tag teams. You create a new feud for everybody. That's what should happen. Not fucking Proud and Powerful, Out and Proud versus the Young Bucks, which no one cares about the Young Bucks. They're boring, man. Anyways, then, but even at this point, I would call like the show progressively got worse, and I would call it a 50-50. And it's time for the main event. This is where the show deteriorated into one of the worst episodes of any kind of wrestling I've ever seen in my life. And I will explain why. The main event was SCU versus Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Now, on paper, this seems to be a great match because you're thinking to yourself, there's a chance that Jericho might be a double champion, as he should be. So you're thinking to yourself, all right, let's run through this as wrestling fans, right? You have SCU, like a team of, let's be honest, jobbers, right? This is like, they've been presented as a strong team, but neither of these guys is going to be AEW champion, hopefully, right? Maybe Daniels, that's the only one that might have a shot, but he's getting up there in age. So there you go, right? You have them versus Jericho, the current champion who's undefeated, and Sammy Guevara, right? So I'm running the scenarios in my head. I'm like, scenario 1, Jericho and Sammy Guevara beat SCU and become champions, right? I'm like, likelihood 30%, right? Scenario 2, SCU beat Jericho and Sammy Guevara, and they pin Sammy Guevara. Likelihood 30%. And I'm like, and the other 40% is reserved for the possibility of a screwy finish of some sort. Cody Rhodes comes in and like costs Jericho the match or something like that or whatever. Or maybe Jericho's next challenger is revealed and he costs Jericho the match. No, motherfuckers, that's not what happened. What happened was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. So in the late stages of the match, right, Jack Swagger comes in and he interferes significantly in the match, right? Right in front of the referee, and the referee pretends not to see it, but that is what it is, right? He takes out Frankie Kazarian with a clothesline. Daniels, who's not part of the match, but is part of SCU, does a suicide dive onto Jack Swagger. Jack Swagger is supposed to catch him, doesn't, but still beats him up and throws him against the barricade. So now Jack Swagger by himself has taken out Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. In the ring, Scorpio Sky takes out Sammy Guevara, who, before being taken out, tags in Jericho. So I'm like, all right. Now it's Scorpio Sky versus Jericho, and Scorpio Sky is gonna be put over as like a strong guy, and eventually Jericho is going to hit the Judas effect and pin him. Or perhaps Scorpio Sky is going to be presented as a strong guy, and he's going to be almost close to beating Jericho until Sammy Guevara like distracts him or grabs his foot or something, and then Jericho hits the Judas effect and wins, right? But that's not what happened. What happened was they had like 5 minutes, Jericho versus Scorpio Sky, and Scorpio Sky wins with a fucking roll-up, with like an inside cradle. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me with this nonsense? Jericho, who is the only star you have, like, let's be honest, he's the only star you have, and you job him out. It's also undefeated, motherfuckers. You job him out to Scorpio Sky. Now, nothing against Scorpio Sky. You know, he was actually pretty impressive in this match. Now, is he a star? No, he's a jobber. He's on the same level as Cedric Alexander, Humberto Carrillo, Buddy Murphy, Mustafa Ali, all these jobbers. He's on that level. So, but he's a tag champion, so I get it. And for a long time, I have maintained that a good tag team, right, should be able to beat a makeshift team of two main eventers. And Sammy Guevara is hardly a main eventer, so the tag team defeating the tag team would make sense in some situations, right? Look at my Dudley Boyz versus Big Show example, where in a 2-on-1 handicap match, when Big Show was the main eventer, Dudley Boyz beat him because they're the Dudley Boyz. They're the tag team champions, or they're one of the best tag teams. They beat him in a table match, right? So if that happened, I'd be okay with it. I'd be totally cool with it. But the problem with this is that that's not what happened, motherfuckers. This would be tantamount to having, like, I don't know, let's say in the Attitude Era, you had the Dudley Boyz, right? Versus, I don't know, The Rock and, like, I don't know, Christian, let's say, right? Like, Edge was injured and The Rock and Christian have to fight the Dudley Boyz. So it's not inconceivable that Dudley Boyz could win, right? Christian was like a lower card guy. The Dudley Boyz were lower card guys, but they were tag team champions. And The Rock was The Rock. Let's say he was WWE champion at the time, right? So what you would expect in this match is The Rock gets distracted by Triple H or something, and then Dudley Boyz hit the 3D on Christian and pin him, right? But imagine if instead of that, what would happen is this. Christian gets taken out by Bubba Ray, right? And then it's Devon versus The Rock. And then Devon pins The Rock clean. That's what happened here, motherfuckers. Devon, fucking Devon over here, right? Scorpio Sky, and I shouldn't even mention them in the same sentence because Devon is a legend and Scorpio Sky is a nobody, right? Devon beat The Rock. It's the same thing, right? This is ridiculous, man. How, in what world, like, what are we to believe now? Scorpio Sky should be the number one contender. Absolutely, no one else has a better claim. No one, not even one person. I'm pretty sure Scorpio Sky is undefeated in AEW. I think he might be the only undefeated guy in AEW. Or maybe Jon Moxley. That's crazy, man. Scorpio Sky and Kazarian and Daniels are undefeated. And Daniels lost to Shima, I think. Or maybe he beat Shima. I don't know, who cares? The point is, this is preposterous to have Scorpio Sky, the Devon of this company, beat Chris Jericho. And Devon beating The Rock would be like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird, but, and it would still be shocking, but it would be like, all right, the company has The Rock, they have Stone Cold, they have Triple H, they have Kurt Angle, they have Jericho, motherfuckers, right? So, all right, he beat one of the main eventers. They have Big Show, right? They have Mick Foley, they have Undertaker, they have Kane. The list goes on and on. So it'd be one thing if like Devon beat, let's say, The Rock, and then the next week, I don't know, Kane destroys the Dudley Boyz in a 2-on-1 match or something, right? Or like Kane and Undertaker destroy the Dudley Boyz in the tag match. But AEW has only Chris Jericho. So this would be almost like Devon beating Jericho, Triple H, Stone Cold in the same match with a fucking roll-up. This is the most preposterous things ever, and this is why AEW will fail, motherfuckers. That's right. The jury is in. They will ultimately fail. That's what I gotta say about that. So, without any further ado, I'm going to go and read up on NXT now because I didn't get to see it, so I can make an NXT review for you guys. Now, I wouldn't have watched it, but I can pretty much watch it in my head. I'm pretty sure some weird things are going to happen. I'm sure that the Undisputed Era is going to attack somebody. Shayna Baszler is going to piss off Rhea Ripley. So we'll go read those results and talk about it later. All right, motherfuckers. See you later.